There are questions about the political future of the UK after British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced his resignation. Johnson first came to power in 2019, but he's been embroiled in several scandals recently. Things came to a head when multiple officials in his own party quit. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata reports from London.
It was an extraordinary day here at Downing Street, a day of political upheaval and drama played out on the most powerful street in the country. A prime minister who fought his entire career to be here, now forced out of office, humiliated by his own party. In defeat and yet still defiant, Boris Johnson stepped up and stepped down.
I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
Broken finally by a rebellion and rapid-fire resignations of more than 50 members of his government.
As we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves.
Sunk by one scandal too many after it emerged that Johnson knew about the sexual misconduct history of an employee he promoted and apparently lied about it. That triggered this week's avalanche. It may not be the end quite yet, but it's close, says political analyst John Sopel.
It is like trying to hold a greased piglet. He is so slippery. Today, the greased piglet has been turned into sliced bacon.
The rule-bending rebel approach to life and politics that marked Johnson's nearly 3-year reign may have ultimately led to his downfall. The charismatic friend of the people who parlayed his promise to exit the European Union to a landslide Conservative victory. A lead squandered by a series of scandals, accusations of lying, and political blunders. Today's speech didn't offer any apologies, no contrition, a resignation speech that somehow avoided the word resignation. Instead, a list of the PM's greatest hits.
Delivering the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, the fastest exit from lockdown, and in the last few months, leading the West in standing up to Putin's aggression in Ukraine.
Yet, even as Boris Johnson exits the stage, the intrigue and drama continues. The Prime Minister said today he would stay on until a successor is chosen, but that could be in the fall. But many in his party want the Prime Minister to leave number 10 immediately. Jamie?
Oh, the drama. Charlie D'Agata, thank you. For more on this, I want to bring in Hilary Fordwich. She is a global business consultant and a British commentator and expert. Thank you so much for being with us, Hilary. You know, if you were just listening to Charlie's piece, you hear he was a greased piglet that's now sliced bacon. When you're looking at some of the other headlines out there, the rise and fall of Boris Johnson, the shameless Boris Johnson. He was so adamant he wasn't going to resign. Now we have all these headlines. What changed?
Well, Jamie, a lot of things happened. Pleasure to be with you here, although under different circumstances, one would wish. Yeah, these are ghastly circumstances. So what were lots of the things that were said? Lots of the things that were said brought him down, and those were as follows. Many scandals. It wasn't just one thing. It's almost like this last scandal that Charlie mentioned. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the one with Chris Pincher, and he was accused of groping a young man a while ago, many years ago, and then that Boris Johnson knew about it, and then a week ago, he drank a lot in a London club, and then again was groping a young man. So that was sort of this last straw. But there have been other instances, and I think this is what is general about the public, not just in Great Britain, but here in America. We don't like people who can't tell the truth. So he was caught in a Partygate scandal. What was that? That was his birthday. And in the UK, they had a far severer lockdown than we had here in the US. People were not allowed out of their homes for more than an hour each day or to pick up groceries. There was even a British MP that wasn't allowed to visit his twin sons that were dying in hospital. So it was taken very seriously over there, Jamie. Boris Johnson was photographed in the scandal that has become known as Partygate. He was drinking and having some birthday cake. Was it his birthday? Yes. Were there just a few people? Yes. But nevertheless, don't tell a big fib where there's photographic evidence that you've told so. So again, there have been many, many instances before this last scandal, Jamie. So it was finally the one straw that broke the camel's back after too many mistruths.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just one after the other, after the other, after the other. You're right, the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, this news, you know, I do think it's been interesting, some of the headlines coming about Ukraine and how the war is still raging there. He's been a huge support system to that country. Can you talk about the global impacts that this will potentially have? It sounds like Ukraine's very disappointed he's leaving.
Well, actually, Jamie, you're totally right, because Zelensky has said he was a great friend. Obviously, as many people know, there's been a street that's already been named after him there in Kiev. A few leaders, though, well, let's look at what's coming out of Russia. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, he has already said that Boris Johnson was no friend of Russia. He did not like us, and we don't like him. He obviously was criticized by Putin. He's been criticized. I think he made some comments recently about how revolting it would be to see him, you know, topless, because obviously Putin considers himself very athletic, etc. So Putin's had nothing but negative things to say about Boris Johnson. What does this mean in terms of international relations? A few things here. With the war raging in Ukraine, Boris Johnson has been the force of Europe. There has not been any other leader that stood up to him, any other leader that's taken such a stance. So there will not be that leadership right now. Of course, it is hoped that within the UK, the new leader will be picked. Well, it could be October, some have said. Then they want to expedite that September, but it's predicted to now be middle of August. It's a long process. I could explain that if you like. But in terms of other global leaders, President Biden has already said that the special relationship will continue. He said that the UK, that bond will not end. That's already been an announcement that was made, and his press secretary also said the same thing. Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland, she is no friend of the UK, and she has said she'll be glad that the chaos is over. And of course, the Irish Prime Minister is being very diplomatic, but saying that he hopes that there will be a negotiator that they will be able to, you know, strengthen the bond with. And the same voice has come out of Europe. Barnier, who is the former EU negotiator, he has said that he wants to have somebody who's more reasonable, who will talk more. So I think my bottom line analysis for you, Jamie, and our audience is there doesn't seem to be many who are upset that he's going, and at least not declaring so. And Biden was very diplomatic.
It sounds that way. Hilary Fordwich, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the analysis.
Pleasure.